After my recent conversation with Conroy Jr., I could not stop thinking about something he said. Men still want to cherish feminine women, but they need space to do it. Today, we're going to unpack what healthy, emotionally grounded men actually wish women understood about love, respect, and connection, and how this awareness can completely transform your relationship. Stay tuned, we're going to dig in. Welcome to the Secret Formula of Femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Monteiro, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Nicole, your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence. And I hope you caught the last episode, which was actually 2 parts, where I sat down with Conroy Jr. and heard all about his love for his late wife, Davina. And what stood out to me was that Conroy's devotion to his late wife wasn't performative, it was sacred. He talked about serving her, praying with her, and protecting her peace even through her illness. That's the kind of love that comes from reverence. He didn't just love her, he honored her, and he felt it was mutual. And that's what I hear from women all the time. They want to feel valued, and they want to also know how they can show value and honor to their man. And as I listened deeply to him, I realized how we often overlook what men quietly crave: respect, trust, and belief. And I even thought about my own life, not just the clients I've worked with. The moments where I equated control with care. I'd say, let me help you. But what he heard was, I don't think you can handle it. That's what he heard from me. When we shift from managing men to believing in them, something beautiful happens. Their masculine energy expands. Our feminine energy relaxes and receives. And that's when partnership starts to feel like harmony and not hard work. Yes, relationships are work, but it doesn't have to be toiling, struggling, difficult work that you absolutely don't want to do. So can we all agree that we need more of this, more understanding of what the other needs, what they're looking for, how they are interpreting things? So, I always like to talk about the research, and I've talked about the psychology of feminine love, but let's talk about the psychology of masculine love and masculinity. Research by John Gottman at the Gottman Institute shows that men who feel appreciated are 70% more emotionally engaged in their relationship. And you notice I said appreciated, not necessarily loved. We each interpret love in different ways. And for a lot of men, appreciation and respect are the highest ways of feeling like they're being loved. There was another recent study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin, and it talked about how admiration and emotional trust predict long-term satisfaction for men, while emotional security predicts it for women. So let's think about that. Men do want to be admired, but in a different way than women. They need to feel like you trust them emotionally, and therefore they trust you emotionally, that you believe in them, that you think the world of them. The other thing is that men often express their love through action, not necessarily through articulation. And I've mentioned this before, where sometimes the way we express love can be different, and that can lead to misunderstandings. Men like to build, fix, plan, and protect. And when their effort is unseen or they feel unduly criticized, they start to withdraw because they feel like the one thing they know how to do is not enough. And it's not because they don't care, but it's because they end up feeling useless. For women, we want to feel that emotional security and connection first. That's the foundation. But for men, they need to feel useful first. That is what sets the stage for trust in that emotional connection. So I want you to pause and ask yourself, when was the last time I acknowledged a man's effort, even if it's not your own man, but his effort and not necessarily the outcome? You'll see that once the effort is acknowledged and praised and, given accolades, that leads to more effort on his part, which will eventually lead to the desired outcome. Appreciation is actually what fuels connection more than advice. Advice often comes with an assumption that there's something to be critiqued, something needs to be improved, and often men like to go internal for that, or they like to go to their circle of male friends, or if they need it from you, they will ask explicitly. But in the meantime, really what they need is an acknowledgement of the effort, an appreciation for where things are going so that they can have that energy. If you think about it, feminine energy is like a morale boost. It says it's like the little engine that could, if you remember that story, keep going, you can do it. And eventually that engine builds the confidence and it has the momentum because it had that boost of morale. That is what appreciation does for masculine energy. And for women, we often talk out our emotions, and sometimes we are a little bit perplexed when men don't do the same. And so it really takes an understanding on both parts to really see what the other needs in terms of how they feel loved and what's going to motivate them. So the key word for men is appreciation, admiration, acknowledgement, right? Think of those three A's. So let's talk about masculine and feminine energy and conflict because conflict is a core part of all relationships, right? We can't avoid conflict, but the best we can do is try to understand how masculine and feminine energies work in conflict. To put it simply, masculine energy needs clarity and feminine energy needs connection. I mentioned that earlier about women. We need emotional security, connection. So when communication breaks down, women may double down emotionally and men may retreat into logic or silence. Now, women often go into logic when they're communicating, but it's still coming from a place of emotional and seeking clarification so that they can connect emotionally. But for men, they go into that place of logic. And if that doesn't make sense for them or they feel like that's not getting them the desired result, they go into silence. And I always say that for women, what triggers us is a sense that the man has withdrawn. What triggers men is when they feel like your tone has been critical. So, women, we need to watch our tone. Men, they need to watch that tendency to go silent or withdraw. The solution, however, isn't to be quieter or louder. It's actually to shift energy. That's where understanding the power and all of the ins and outs, not only of your feminine energy, but of his masculine energy actually comes in. Instead of getting louder or quieter, try this instead. Instead of saying, you never listen, you can try, I really value when you help me feel heard, right? That's saying, I appreciate something you actually do for me. It's the same message delivered in softness, and softness actually invites responsiveness from the man's masculine energy. And Conroy, if you go back and you listen to that episode, he gave so many examples of how the two of them were able to do that dance of communication. It wasn't all about being direct and to the point, although there were times of that, but they seemed to really understand each other's energies, what they needed, not just in words, but in tone, but in time and in space. There are three things that are helpful as a feminine woman. There are three aspects of feminine communication that are vital. It's time, space, and tone. Time is knowing the timing of when to say something, when to bring something up. It's not always just in the moment. That's why you have to learn to regulate your emotions, be in tune with what you're feeling, and know the timing. And you have to sometimes delay that gratification. Sometimes you need to say it right then and there. Sometimes you need to wait. The space part is learn to give space. After you say something, give some time for him to take it in, for your partner to really try to make sense. A lot of times, men want to know what is the action that is needed in what you're saying. Is there something they need to fix? What do they need to do? Right. So, a lot of times I will tell women, give space, but also when you're leaning in and telling him how you feel, you can also add a little part where you say what you need, because that puts him into masculine action mode. The third thing is tone. Tone is vital. How you say something is not just as, but actually more important than what you say. And this is something that we know, right? Somebody could say the exact same thing and another person says it, and you will respond differently based on the tone. So, time, space, and tone are key. And that's how you learn to dance with that masculine and feminine energy in communication. So, I want you to try this mini exercise. Close your eyes and breathe. And picture a conversation that actually frustrated you, either with someone you're in a relationship with now, or just it could be in the past or anybody else that you're close to. Now, as you're in that space of frustration, imagine approaching the situation from a place of curiosity instead of correction. Notice how your body relaxes when you are curious. You just want to know more. You're not assuming something negative. You're not assuming that you need to correct or fix. You're just curious. Hmm, I noticed that he withdrew, he got silent, he reacted a certain way. Get curious about it versus coming in and being accusatory, making assumptions, or feeling you have to make a correction. And as you imagine that curiosity, notice how your body relaxes. Truly, like this changes your nervous system. When you are in a mode of just curiosity, that is the energy that builds emotional safety, both for yourself as well as for your partner, when you want them to be able to trust you, to confide in you, and to communicate with you. So let's talk a little more about what men wish women knew. This was something that Conroy said from the beginning in his interview. He said, oftentimes men go into action and women say, well, he didn't say this, that, or the other. And the man is thinking, but I did it. That is how I communicated it to you. So let's talk more about other things that men wish women knew in terms of what they need and how they express their love. One is that he needs your belief, not constant advice. Trust ignites his confidence as well as his desire to pour back into building an emotional connection with you. Do not underestimate that. That belief, that is something that the feminine energy gives that can't be gotten from other places. That's why when women say our feminine energy is powerful, it has the power to pour belief into a person to make them feel motivated, make them feel worthy. So he needs your belief, not your constant advice. The other thing that's hard for a lot of women to really grasp is he values peace over perfection, calm over control. As you're running around trying to have the perfect thing happen, he just wants peace. Be at peace with yourself, feel okay with being imperfect. The beauty of imperfection is peaceful, it's calming, right? That calm brings in a sense of, I can trust you, I can relax with you, I can be in a place of letting my guard down in vulnerability as a man that I can't when I'm out in the world. So understand that you should know this, but he also knows that your softness disarms him. Vulnerability is magnetic. Conroy said it like that was the thing that drew his late wife Davina to him even before they got married. Her ability to be vulnerable, her ability to ask for help, her softness literally melted him in her arms. And I don't think a lot of women understand that because we often see softness as a weakness. We feel like we have to put this armor on to go in outside in the world. And for many women, that may be the case, but we don't know how to take that armor off, to take that cape off and just rest in our softness and let our man do the same. So if there's one thing that you want to take away from this, it's that softness disarms him. It truly does. The fourth thing is that respect feels like love for men. And on the other end of the spectrum, disrespect wounds deeper than disagreement. When Conroy described caring for Davina, it wasn't about ego. It was service that he was giving to her. He felt needed by her, respected by her, and trusted by her. And that combination turns good men into great husbands, providers, protectors. So it's that appreciation that makes him feel needed. It's that respect that makes him feel trusted. It's that belief that makes him feel confident, not only in himself, but in the relationship. So, can you take that all in, ladies? It's the peace over perfection, calm over control, understanding how your softness disarms him, and understanding the importance and power of respect. That is key. So let's talk about how you actually build mutual respect in real life. It's funny. I often hear from women that they feel like trying to understand men is like trying to understand this thousand-piece puzzle that they're never going to be able to put together. And they feel like they're having to play games and trick their husband into, valuing them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you're thinking about it in a way that's disempowering versus being empowering. You need to understand what your needs are, but being in partnership means you understand what the other person's needs are. You're two people speaking two different languages from a male perspective and a female perspective. So you want to think about how to build mutual respect where you're tapped into what you need, but you're also tapped into what he needs. So here are 4 practical shifts that you can work on. One is speak life. Replace criticism with curiosity. Things like, help me understand how you see it. I want to know more. I'm curious. Please tell me, right? Number 2 is let him lead. Partnership is not performance. So you don't have to put him in this position of having to be perfect in order to lead you. You just need to have the confidence. The second thing is let him lead. Partnership is not performance. So you don't have to put him on this pedestal where he has to be perfect in order to lead. Have belief, have trust. You chose him, right? So if you can't trust him to lead, then I think you need to try to think about your decision a little bit. So if you trust in the decision you made to be with this person, then you have to trust in allowing them to lead and step into their masculine power. The third thing is celebrate small wins. Appreciation actually activates affection within your man. So if you appreciate the effort, again, not just the outcome, but the effort, the small wins, the things that are going well that you acknowledge and that you notice or observe in his leadership, let him know. That actually activates the emotional connection and the affection that you're looking for, that we're often looking for as women. And number 4 is stay open. Presence is more attractive than perfection. So running around trying to control everything, making the house perfect, making this perfect, making yourself perfect, it just makes the whole situation tense. And that is not where our power is as feminine women. It's in our ability to be present, to really understand our emotions, to be vulnerable. Those are the factors in our feminine energy attraction. So I want you to pause for a moment and think about or write down 3 ways you could show belief in a man that you care about. It could be your partner, it could be your father, brother, or colleague. Practice being able to communicate in a way that masculine energy values and appreciates. You'll feel your energy soften immediately because as you become more attuned to the masculine, you also trust your feminine more. You see how they complement each other. All right. So I want to know in the comments, once you do that, what it felt like. Could you think of 3 ways that you could show more belief in a man that you care about? And how did that shift your energy and even how you felt about yourself? All right. So as usual, one of my favorite parts is when we get into Q&A. I have some great questions and as always, you can email me, you can send me a DM on my Instagram account and I will try my best to get to your question and see how it fits into one of the segments. All right, question number 1 is, how do I show respect without losing my voice? Here's the thing, respect is honoring how you speak, not silencing what you say. So respect is really in your tone. As I said, men get triggered by our tone. We get triggered by their withdrawal. So don't think about that you can't say something. Think about how you say it. How can you express that curiosity? How can you invite that sense that he can be vulnerable and open with you and not have to be in this performance mode? So think about it as how you speak, not silencing what you say. All right, that was a great question. So, question 2 is, what if he is emotionally distant? Yes, I already talked about how oftentimes silence or withdrawal can be a sign that he's in a place where he's not ready to be vulnerable. He may have felt criticized and so forth. One thing that can be really helpful in pulling him out of that is praising his presence in small ways. Things like, I love when you check in on me. Men tend to open up when they feel safe, not scolded. So instead of you're silent, you're emotionally withdrawn, what's wrong with you? It's like, I miss when we used to have our time to check in, or I love when you check in on me. I feel safe when we are able to connect, or when I hear how you're doing, right? You say it in your way, but just think about being present and showing appreciation in small ways. Question number 3 is, can feminine women still be strong? Absolutely. We are strong by nature. Our resilience, the fact that we give birth to, we create life, we get through hardships, we overcome. Like, we are strong. That is part of being a woman. But it doesn't mean that you're cut off, you can't be interdependent, right? True strength is really in your emotional regulation, leading with peace, not pressure, understanding that you don't have to be perfect. These are all signs and ways that your strength is truly displayed versus coming out hard all of the time, which is usually a sign that you're feeling a bit fragile. So, absolutely, your femininity as a woman doesn't take away from your strength. You have a unique type of strength that is actually very powerful. So I want to close with this, and it's really inspired by my interview with Conroy Jr. and just hearing about the love that he had for his late wife, Davina, and just some of the words that he had for women listening. And I want you to know that real men don't fear femininity, they flourish in its presence. I know there's a lot of debate about the dating atmosphere, and I want to tell you, as a feminine woman, you have to be careful to guard your energy, not to get into a state of fear and lack that really disrupts your nervous system. You start listening to people who themselves are in not so good of a place when it comes to relationships. It's important for you to lean into your femininity and know that a real man, a masculine man who is healthy and healed, he will flourish in the presence of your femininity. He will not fear it. Conroy's story reminded me that respect and reverence are not old fashioned, they're timeless. They are what most of us are seeking. When women learn to stay soft without shrinking, and men learn to love without ego, we rebuild the sacred balance that relationships were meant to have, that complementary, balanced level of energies. Ladies, if this episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend who's ready to believe in love again. And if you want to go deeper into feminine communication and emotional connection, make sure you get my book, The Boundaries to Bliss Blueprint, for women who are finally ready to win at love. Or if you want to go even deeper, join my inner circle, the Boundaries to Bliss Society. Because the secret formula of femininity is not about changing who you are. It's about remembering the power of your presence and the power of your feminine energy. I want to thank you so much for joining. I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. Until then, I'm Dr. Nicole.